In every quiet neighborhood, there's that one house. The one everyone whispers about. The blinds always half closed, the porch light flickering at odd hours, and a sense that something dark lives behind that door. For Ajike A.J. Owens, a hard-working single mother of 4, that house was right across the field, and the woman inside called herself the perfect neighbor, but perfection was a lie. And one humid Florida night in June 2023, that lie exploded into tragedy. A.J. Owens was the kind of woman people remembered. She had a bright smile, the kind that made you feel seen. She worked hard as a restaurant manager, raised 4 children on her own, and still found time to cheer at every game, every school event. Her kids, Isaac, Africa, Titus, and little Israel, were her whole world. She used to tell her friends, "One day, the world's gonna know my name." No one ever imagined how hauntingly true that would become. In Ocala, Florida, the summer heat was suffocating. Kids filled the open fields between apartment buildings, their laughter echoing through the complex. To most neighbors, it was background noise, a sign of community life. But to one woman, it was a constant irritation. Her name was Susan Lawrence. To the world, she appeared harmless, an insurance company employee, quiet, a little reclusive. But behind closed doors, resentment was brewing. She had lived across from AJ for 2 years, and for 2 years, she had called 911 again and again, complaining about the noise, the children, and the chaos she said they brought. At first, AJ tried to ignore it. She'd heard Susan's complaints through the grapevine, but she figured everyone has their quirks. That changed when her kids started coming home scared. It began small. Susan yelling out her window when the kids played too close to her yard, recording them with her phone as if she were gathering evidence. Then, her words grew sharper, uglier. According to witnesses, she hurled slurs, words that burned deep into the hearts of AJ's young children, words that no child should ever hear. "This is not the Underground Railroad, you slaves," she once shouted, according to AJ's mother. The Owens family started to feel trapped in their own neighborhood. Every laugh, every game, every sound was a risk. Yet AJ kept telling her kids, "Don't let hate change who you are." But hate has a way of growing in silence, and Susan's hate was boiling over. By 2023, the tension had reached a breaking point. Police records showed that Susan had called law enforcement at least half a dozen times on AJ's children, often over trivial things. A missing ball, a loud conversation, kids being kids. Neighbors had begun to notice. One told detectives that Susan wasn't the victim she pretended to be. She was the aggressor. She claimed the field between the buildings belonged to her. She filmed the kids constantly. She even bragged about using racial slurs in anger. Still, nothing stopped her. Each call she made to police only emboldened her. Each complaint made her feel more justified, more righteous. In her mind, she wasn't the problem. She was the protector, the perfect neighbor. Then came June 2nd, 2023, a day that would change everything. It started like any other humid afternoon in Ocala. AJ's kids were playing outside in the open field, laughing, chasing one another, skates clattering on the pavement. Their mother was inside, probably cleaning up after lunch, grateful for a few moments of peace. But peace was something this neighborhood hadn't known in a long time. Susan watched from her window, seething. She claimed she had tripped over a stray roller skate earlier in the day, something that made her furious. To her, that field wasn't for kids, it was her territory. When she saw the Owens children playing there again, her anger ignited. "Pick up your skates," she reportedly shouted. The kids ignored her. Maybe they didn't hear. Maybe they were tired of her yelling. And that's when it began. Susan stormed outside, her phone in hand, filming. She shouted again. One of the boys, frustrated, shouted back. According to Susan, that boy threatened her life. "I'm going to kill you," she later told police, he said. "If I can't kill you, I'll find someone who will." But none of the neighbors heard those words. No one else could confirm them. What witnesses did say was that Susan picked up a roller skate and threw it. It hit one of the boys in the foot. The boy cried out in pain. The tablet he was holding clattered to the ground and cracked. The other kids screamed and ran home, terrified. And when they burst into their apartment, tears streaming down their faces, they said the one thing no mother wants to hear. "Mom, she hit us." AJ's world froze. This wasn't the first time Susan had targeted her children. But this was physical. A grown woman had thrown something at her babies. AJ's anger burned. But beneath that anger was something else. Fear. Fear that if she didn't stand up for her children now, no one ever would. She told her oldest, "Stay inside," and grabbed the tablet. Then with her 9-year-old beside her, she walked across the courtyard toward Susan's apartment. It was early evening, the sun dipping low, painting the sky a deep orange. Neighbors watched from their porches, sensing the tension. They'd seen AJ's children run home crying. They knew this confrontation was coming. AJ reached the door. She knocked once. No answer. She knocked again, harder this time. "Come out here, Susan. We need to talk." Behind that locked door, Susan's heart pounded. She had already called 911, claiming she felt threatened. But she didn't wait for help to arrive. Instead, she went to her bedroom, opened a drawer, and took out her handgun. While AJ stood on the porch, her 9-year-old clinging to her side, she demanded an explanation. "Why would you hurt my kids?" she shouted through the metal door. Neighbors later said AJ wasn't violent. She didn't kick, didn't try to break in. She just wanted Susan to face her, to own up to what she had done. But Susan didn't open the door. She stayed hidden, weapon in hand, her finger trembling on the trigger. Through the phone line, the 911 operator could hear her voice shaking. "There's a woman at my door," Susan said. "She's screaming. I'm scared." She paused, her breathing uneven. "I don't know what to do." Then, silence. A few seconds later, a single deafening crack shattered the calm. The bullet tore through the locked door and into AJ's chest. Her body jerked backward, the tablet falling from her hand. Her son screamed. AJ stumbled down the porch steps, clutching her chest, gasping for air. "Call 911, she managed to say before collapsing onto the ground. Neighbors ran out, horror on their faces. 2 of AJ's children had witnessed everything. By the time the paramedics arrived, AJ was gone. In the minutes after the shooting, Susan's calm returned. She called 911 again. Her voice was eerily composed. "I shot through the door," she told the dispatcher. "The woman was screaming and yelling at me. I didn't know what to do. I thought she was going to kill me." But there was no weapon found on AJ, no sign of forced entry, just a mother lying in a pool of her own blood. And a child, forever haunted by what he had seen. That night, blue and red lights filled the neighborhood. Police swarmed the area, body cams recording every second. Behind the crime scene tape, the Owens children watched, numb with shock. Their grandmother, Pamela, arrived minutes later. She pushed past the officers, screaming her daughter's name. But AJ didn't answer. In the distance, Susan stood on her porch, hands trembling, her face pale under the flashing lights. She told officers the same story. She was defending herself. She felt threatened. She was the victim. But neighbors told a different story. They said AJ was unarmed, that Susan had been the one provoking, harassing, taunting for years. And one neighbor, voice shaking, told the police, "She's always been like this, always picking on those kids, always calling them names." The news spread fast. By morning, the story had reached every corner of Ocala. A mother of 4, shot dead by her neighbor through a locked door. The community demanded answers. But the sheriff's office moved slowly, saying they needed to review the evidence. To many, it felt like history repeating itself. Another unarmed black woman killed, another shooter claiming self-defense. The Owens family called it what it was, an execution. In the days that followed, AJ's mother, Pamela Diaz, spoke out. Her voice cracked as she faced the cameras. "Justice," she said, "would be this never happening in the first place. Justice would be eradicating racism. Justice would be proper gun reform laws." Her grief was raw, her pain unimaginable. She wasn't just mourning her daughter. She was mourning the safety of every mother who's ever had to warn her children about the world outside. Meanwhile, Susan's version of events began to unravel. The affidavit revealed she had admitted to using racial slurs in the past. She had called the police multiple times with false reports. And her so-called fear? It seemed more like obsession. Still, she insisted she had no choice. "I thought she was going to kill me," she said from jail months later. I never meant to shoot her. I just wanted to scare her. But how do you accidentally fire a gun through a locked metal door? As the investigation deepened, the story became a national flashpoint, a case that exposed the fragile line between fear and hate, between law and justice. Netflix would later call it The Perfect Neighbor. But for those who lived it, that title carried a cruel irony. Because if Susan Lawrence was the perfect neighbor, then what does that say about the world we live in? The morning after the shooting, the neighborhood was unnervingly quiet. The laughter that once echoed through the courtyard was gone, replaced by whispers and police tape. For A.J. Owens's children, their world had shattered in an instant. Their mother was gone, and the woman who took her life still sat in her home across the field. The police worked through the night, gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, and trying to piece together what happened. But for A.J.'s family, every hour that passed without an arrest felt like another betrayal. To them, it wasn't a mystery. It was murder. Pamela Diaz, A.J.'s mother, stood in the Florida heat outside the apartment complex, her eyes red from crying. She watched as investigators carried evidence bags out of Susan Lawrence's home. Inside one of those bags was the gun, the one Susan had fired through her locked metal door, ending A.J.'s life. Pamela couldn't look away. That gun had stolen not just her daughter, but her grandchildren's sense of safety, their innocence, their mother's warmth. As the days passed, outrage spread. Across Ocala, people gathered for candlelight vigils, holding photos of A.J., smiling, radiant, alive. "Say her name," they chanted. A.J. Owens. The name began to echo far beyond Florida. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump, known for representing families in some of America's most painful racial injustice cases, took up A.J.'s story. Crump called it a modern-day lynching, a woman killed for standing at the door of someone who viewed her existence as a threat. "We cannot accept this," he said to cameras. "You can't shoot through a locked door and then claim self-defense. That's not fear. That's hatred." But inside the sheriff's office, things moved slower. Detectives were cautious, citing the need for a thorough investigation. Sheriff Billy Woods told the media they were reviewing body cam footage and witness statements. "We have to make sure we get it right," he said. "Florida law requires us to look at whether the use of deadly force was justifiable." To A.J.'s family, those words felt like salt in an open wound. What could possibly justify shooting an unarmed mother through a locked door while her child stood beside her? The investigation revealed something deeply disturbing. For 2 years before the shooting, Susan Lawrence had been calling the police on A.J.'s children repeatedly, at least 8 times. She complained about them playing in the field, being too loud, touching her property. Neighbors told detectives that Susan filmed the children constantly, muttering insults under her breath. One neighbor even described her as obsessed. When detectives confronted Susan, she didn't deny it. In fact, she admitted that she'd used racial slurs against the kids out of anger. She claimed she was just frustrated. Frustrated with the noise, frustrated with the kids playing too close to her home, frustrated that no one was listening when she complained. But anger is not fear, and frustration is not justification. Despite these revelations, Susan insisted she acted in self-defense. In her first 911 call that day, she had told dispatchers she was afraid. "There are several kids outside," she said. "I feel threatened. I'm fearing for my life." When asked if they were armed, she said no. But her tone wavered, suggesting she was building her story even as she spoke it. By the time of the second call, her words had changed. "She's trying to break down my door," Susan said, her voice shaking. "I shot through the door. I didn't know what to do." The dispatcher's voice stayed calm, asking, "Ma'am, is she inside your home?" "No," Susan answered. "She's outside. But she was screaming. I thought she was going to kill me." The police transcripts showed something crucial. Susan never said A.J. had a weapon. Never said A.J. had forced her way in. All she said was that she was yelling. And for that, she fired a bullet through a locked metal door. When the arrest affidavit was finally made public, it painted a clear picture. A.J. had knocked several times, asking Susan to come outside. She never crossed the threshold. She never broke the door. The bullet came from inside, through the door, into her chest. Susan Lawrence had been safe. She had already called law enforcement. They were minutes away. Yet she pulled the trigger anyway. The community's anger grew. People demanded her arrest. Social media lit up with posts asking why she was still free. The sheriff's office, under mounting pressure, finally announced that Susan Lawrence would be charged with manslaughter. When deputies arrived at her door, she didn't resist. Her face was blank, drained of emotion, as she was handcuffed and led away. Cameras caught the moment, her eyes cold, her voice quiet. No tears, no visible remorse. In her first interview from jail, Susan told reporters, "I'm not a racist. I didn't mean to kill her. I was scared. I just wanted her to stop." But the words rang hollow. Fear had become her shield, one she used to hide behind even as the facts stripped it away. The trial didn't come quickly. For over a year, AJ's family waited, haunted by the slow grind of the justice system. Each court date brought fresh pain. AJ's children had to relive that night again and again through videos, recordings, and reports. Pamela attended every hearing, sitting silently, clutching her daughter's photo. Justice, she said quietly to reporters, would be her still being alive. When the trial finally began in August 2024, the courtroom was packed. Reporters filled every row, cameras lined the hallway. On one side sat AJ's family, united in grief. On the other, Susan Lawrence, the woman who called herself the perfect neighbor. The prosecution laid out the evidence clearly. They showed the door, still bearing the bullet hole. They played the 911 recordings. They showed photos of AJ's body lying outside, unarmed. And then, they revealed the pattern. Months of harassment, slurs, and false reports. This wasn't a single moment of panic, they argued. It was a buildup of hate, culminating in one irreversible act. The defense clung to the stand-your-ground argument, claiming Susan had reason to believe she was in danger. They painted her as a woman under siege in her own home, terrified of her neighbor and her children. They said she'd been harassed, provoked, pushed to the edge. But it wasn't enough. The jury saw through it. The body cam footage told the truth. Susan was behind a locked door. She had called 911. She knew help was on the way. She had time to walk away. Instead, she went to her bedroom, grabbed her gun, and fired. When the verdict came down, the courtroom was silent. The judge read it slowly. Guilty of manslaughter. Susan Lawrence's face went pale. She closed her eyes, hands trembling. Across the room, AJ's family wept quietly. During sentencing, Judge Robert Hodges looked directly at Susan. His voice was stern, measured. "This crime was completely unnecessary," he said. "You were behind a locked door. The door was secure. Law enforcement was already on their way. Yet for some reason, you went to your room, found a gun, and pulled the trigger. There was no justification for this." He sentenced her to 25 years in prison. Outside the courthouse, Pamela stood surrounded by reporters. Her eyes were tired, but resolute. "There's no victory in this," she said. "Justice doesn't bring my daughter back. Justice would have been her growing old with her children." For a moment it seemed the story was over. The court had spoken, the sentence delivered. But AJ's story refused to fade. Her name became a rallying cry for those demanding gun reform, for those fighting against racial profiling and neighborhood vigilantism disguised as fear. When Netflix released The Perfect Neighbor in 2025, it reopened the wound. The documentary didn't just tell AJ's story, it showed it. Using body cam footage from that night, it captured the chaos, the confusion, the humanity lost in those fatal seconds. Viewers watched as officers approached Susan's home, as Pamela screamed for her daughter, as Susan coolly repeated her story. It was haunting, raw, and deeply uncomfortable. The documentary also revealed new footage, interviews with neighbors who admitted they'd seen the warning signs long before the shooting. "We knew something bad was going to happen," one said softly. "She hated those kids. We all saw it." In the film, Susan's own words became her undoing. In one clip, she calmly told an interviewer, "I just wanted peace. I was tired of the noise. I was the perfect neighbor." But her version of peace had come at the cost of a woman's life. The documentary's director, Geeta Ganbir, a family friend of AJ's, said the project was personal. "This was about transforming grief into purpose," she said. AJ had big dreams. She wanted the world to know her name. Now, through this film, she's making that happen. Across North America, viewers were shaken. The story of AJ Owens struck a nerve. It wasn't just about one woman's death. It was about the unspoken tensions that exist in neighborhoods across the country. The fear of difference, the danger of unchecked prejudice, the power imbalance between who gets to feel afraid and who pays the price for that fear. In one of the documentary's most chilling moments, a neighbor summed it up perfectly. Susan didn't see AJ as a mother. She saw her as a threat. And in this country, fear is a weapon. In the years since the verdict, AJ's children have tried to move forward. They still live with their grandmother, who continues to fight for change in her daughter's name. At community meetings and rallies, Pamela speaks with the same strength AJ once had. "We have to be better neighbors," she says. "Real neighbors protect, they uplift, they don't destroy." But even as justice was served in the courtroom, the emotional wounds remain. The field where AJ's children once played is quiet now. The laughter hasn't returned. Some say at night, when the wind blows through the courtyard, it sounds like whispers. A mother's voice, still calling her children home. And somewhere, behind prison walls, Susan Lawrence tells herself the same lie she's always believed, that she was the perfect neighbor.